So after I install the React scripts, what I did is in the .env file, as I told you, I have to paste our URL of our Mongo database, which we got from the MongoDB Atlas. Right, so this is the URL. I paste it here, and then I put my cluster name Bala CRUD. And if you want if you want to have any specific database to be created, you can specify the database here, but I didn't specify anything, so by default um, it will uh, it will create the collections in a test database. Okay, so this is what I put. This is the existing code we downloaded, and in the env I have put this. And second, what you have to do is, so in the env we have replaced the URL. Second, in the server folder we have to do a npm start. So in the server folder I did a npm start, and in the client folder I have to do npm. So let me go to a client folder. So in the client folder I did npm I react scripts to install all the react scripts, and then I did a npm start. So when I did a npm start, so there is a server started on port number 3000. So this is a react server, and there is another server started here in port number 5000, and this is a backend server. This is a which is run by Node, right? So there are two servers started, right? One for the backend and one for the front end. One is in the server folder and one is in the client folder. So after starting the two servers, right, you can access this localhost 3000. So when I access localhost 3000, I get this page, right? So there is so in React, right, you can have different components, reusable components. We will discuss more about that. So this is a page coming in, right? There is a form coming here, and there is some table coming here. I can fill some data here. Temp, some post name is BCA, email is escape or EC, contact is some number, fees is 1000. So when I click create button, right, a data is created, and in the database also, if I go refresh, I'm able to see the entry here, right? So we are going to, what we are going to do is that we are going to just go over, we are going to do a code walkthrough and understand how this works, okay? And then we are going to code it. Okay, so first is the code walkthrough and then we'll code it. But before that, let's go over some basic things in React and Node. What is React? Some basics of React and Node, and then we'll do the code walkthrough. So what is React? So React is a JavaScript library for building user interface, right? So you know that JavaScript is used in the front end. It is executed by the browser. So when you send any HTTP request to the server responds with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript file. Using HTML and CSS is used to display the content, right? CSS is used to give the color. HTML is the markup language used to mark the content using tags, and your browser displays the contents accordingly, right? Here some content is in black, in bold, is using the marking given by the HTML, and the browser is displaying the content. Now, so there's a JavaScript code also is coming in. Like when I click something, right, some action has to happen, right? Some code has to get executed when you click something. So JavaScript code is executed by the browser. Okay, so what is React? React is actually a JavaScript library. So there is set of already code written, right? We can make use of that. Okay, so that set of code already written, right? That is React, and we can make use of that. So there is advantages of using this React JavaScript library. The first advantage is, right, it all React applications are single page applications. Okay, we will see in detail of what is multi-page application and single page application. Our overview is, see, when you send a request, right, to the server. So there are two servers running, right? React server and the backend server for a React application. When you send a HTTP request, the React server, it sends only one HTML file and it sends lot of components. okay, in a bundle to your to the browser, okay. And when you click on any link, right, the browser calls the corresponding component. The corresponding component returns the HTML content to the browser. On reading the HTML content, the browser displays it. So if you click on anything, there is no new request going to the server. Okay, it is happening in the browser itself. So this is called as client side rendering. Okay, which means all the HTML content is rendered in the client side itself by the component. Okay, server side rendering means you send a request, the server collects information from the database and it puts all the information in the HTML and then sends the HTML. So the rendering, the HTML is coming from the server, right? This is server side rendering. Okay. Um, Client side rendering is performance will be better because there is no request and response coming from the servers, right? So client side rendering performance will be good. And the components, right, you can see the components as a functions. Okay, so when you send a request, the response from the React server will be an HTML file and set of functions, you can see. So these functions, right, can be called again and again. Okay, they are reusable UI components, right, and the components return HTML content to you. Okay, so this is the main advantage of using React. Okay, let's go over what is Node.js. So Node.js is an open source cross-platform Java runtime environment. Okay, so it is open source, which means that anybody can contribute to Node.js. It's a JavaScript runtime environment that is used to run web application outside the client browser. So usually JavaScript, right? The JavaScript code is sent by the server and it is sent to your browser, and the browser executes a JavaScript code. Browser, our Chrome browser has a V8 engine which executes JavaScript code, right? So in the backend coding, before we don't have anything out to run the JavaScript code. So Node is kind of a JavaScript runtime environment which is used to execute JavaScript code in the backend, like outside the client browser. So it is used to create server side applications, right? So the main advantage of Node.js, right, it is asynchronous, which means any request coming to Node.js, right, what it does is it takes a request and then it allocates a thread for it to process the request, and it can handle another request parallelly. That is the biggest advantage of Node.js. When you use Node.js in the backend, it is asynchronous, so that it can handle many requests simultaneously. Okay, we will see how it can do that. So, so because of that, the performance will be little fast. So other applications, right? Usually backend applications. Suppose you want to access a database, right? It gets the request, it does some operation. Until the operation is completed, it will not accept other requests, right? It cannot process multiple requests in parallel. It has to take one request, complete the request, and then only it can process another request. But in Node.js, when a first request comes, it can start the processing, and it is available to handle another request in parallel. So that is what is asynchronous. And so what is the architecture of Node.js, right? So Node.js uses a single threaded event loop. There's an event loop. There's a single thread event loop is there. And it can handle multiple requests, right? So when a HTTP request comes, right, what happens is the request is put in the event queue. Okay, this is a Node.js server, okay, which listens to your HTTP request. Okay, and then it puts in the event queue. The event loop, right? The request can be for querying for data, for it can be for creating a data, reading a data, or updating a data, right? And then so the Node.js server, right, it adds the request to the event queue, and then from the event queue, the event loop, right, it gets the request from the event queue. If it is a simple request, the event loop itself will process it and will send the response back to the client. If a request is a kind of a complex request, what it does is from the thread pool, it takes a thread and it assigns the request to the thread. Okay, and the thread, what it does is it takes the request and then it does the processing, like it has to update a database or get information from the database. The thread does the operation. So while the thread is doing that operation, the event, another request can come and another request can go to the event queue. Okay, so this is why Node.js is asynchronous, right? While one thread is processing the request, still HTTP request can come and the event loop can process another HTTP request. So parallelly, this processing can happen. That is why Node.js is asynchronous, which improves the performance. And the thread pool, right, it does the processing and it returns the result to the event loop, and the event loop sends the reply back to the client. So this is the Node.js architecture, and this is how Node.js is asynchronous. Okay, and npm is Node.js packet, Node packet manager, which is used to install packages, and Node.js modules are like Mongoose, Express, right? Those are different modules, right? Which you have to, before we use this require function to import a module. Now you can use import function. Okay, this is a new ES6 feature to import modules. And one of the important framework for backend is Express framework. Okay, the Express framework, the main use is, right, it is used for designing single page, multi-page and hybrid web applications, right? We will see in detail what is single page and all. And then so Express, right, using Express framework, you can start the HTTP server, right? You can you can start a server in a particular port, and the Express will respond to the HTTP request. So you can use Express framework for that, and you can define your own routing table, right, for your web application. If the route is freshkite.com/contact, what function has to be called, freshkite.com/about us, for this route what function has to be called. So these kind of routes and all we can define using with Express. We can define. So basically we can tell Express that for this route call this function, for this route call this function. So once you tell that to the Express, when HTTP requests come for the corresponding route, the corresponding function will be called. Okay, and we already saw the Node.js architecture. This is what is Node.js, right? It's a runtime environment which is used to run JavaScript code in the backend outside the browser. And Express is a framework which is used to start a web server, to respond to HTTP requests, and to define routes for our web application. For all these things, we can use the Express framework. Okay, so in the next video, we will see what is single page application, and the little more details about it. And we will also see the code walkthrough of our web application. So in our web application, right, see, we installed, and so in our web application, in the README, what it tells is we have updated the URL, and we did a npm start in the server. The server was started, and then we did npm start in the client directory also. And once we did it, when we do, right, we saw this, right. So we will do a code walkthrough of how this works, and then we will code ourselves.